Warning, this podcast has stories of real-life events and true crime that happens every day. These stories may contain adult language and graphic or disturbing details not suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised.
132 in Bush, I've got him at gunpoint.
They're pulling them out.
911, advise ready for escape.
God!
The day is
Warning,
True
this podcast...
Drinks, as usual. What's going on?
What? What's up?
No, it started to play again. I had to take it off a loop.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Not much.
Yeah?
Just doing my MBA.
Yeah, I know you switched from cybersecurity to MBA.
Wow, that was so stupid. I would have been done almost by now. I would have had like 3 classes left. And
Yeah.
so I spent all day today trying to get ahead of everything in this class I just started yesterday. So I wrote 2 papers today. So I'm in week 4 technically, in week 1.
Mm.
So I just said, fuck it, might as well. I had the time.
I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, fuck it.
Fuck it.
I'm learning a lot
You're
about agriculture and business.
Why would you want to?
Business, I guess. I don't know.
No,
I don't
right?
want to learn anything about it.
I talked to somebody at work, and she's in a financial, director, and like deals with numbers, and she likes numbers better than people, and she has her degree in all that stuff in finance. And I sit down with her and I go over budgets and stuff, and I go, it boggles my mind that you can do all this stuff. This would just drive me insane. And she goes, "Oh man, I couldn't do what you do. I'm safe and happy with numbers." So same thing. I don't want to get my MBA. I don't want to go for that. I don't want to deal with statistics. I think I finally decided what I will, because I've wanted to go back and get, because I only got a 2-year degree so that I could promote.
Right.
But at this point, I want to kind of finish my 4-year degree, because why not? And all my student loans got expunged. We talked about this because it wasn't the Biden student loan debt forgiveness thing. It was
Working in your field, right?
No. It wasn't even that. I happened to be on the list of people who were considered victims of predatory lending by the college.
Oh shit.
And so they absolved my student loans because the college had to pay money back to the feds. So they absolved my student loans and sent me a check for the difference of what I'd already paid. And so now I'm like, well, shoot, might as well go back and finish my degree. And my boss is like, yeah, if you want to do that, I'll even give you a pay bump. And so I met with the dude, and I think it's not an actual major, but I'm going to find the major that appropriately fits it, is behavioral threat assessment. Because I didn't
even know that was a thing.
Yeah, so I'm already
cool.
where I work. I'm already on the behavioral threat assessment team, and we're already doing it. I've already been trained to do it, and now I just finished a train the trainer course so I can teach it, at least at the level 1, area.
Is it that much more of a pay bump from at your current position
to get the degree?
Yeah.
I mean, so he's going to make it worth my while, is what he said.
That's
if you want to
good.
get the
That's
degree, I'll
good.
make it worth your while. So
honestly,
even if it just pays for my, loan amount,
right,
and it's the same amount of money, eventually the loan will go away, and I'll have the money. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. We've spent enough time catching up. I'm going to let you talk about our next guest, because similar to the flight surgeon cannabis doctor, who is my doctor and a friend of mine, our next guest is a personal friend of yours, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not even going to read anything off. I don't need to read anything. I normally have like their LinkedIn or whatever. I don't need any of that shit this time. I grew up with this kid. I played football with him in high school, and he was actually a big reason why I joined. He has no idea, but he's a big reason why I joined football. When I was in 8th grade, he came to our school. I think he was like a sophomore, and he came into the school, and they had like this deal where they would come and talk to all the kids and stuff like that. And they brought the football players, and they brought the cheerleaders, and they did a pep rally We grew up in Acton, and I went to. I don't know if that's giving anything away. I really don't care about myself.
We don't
But
live there anymore, so
it's a high desert.
I'm gonna
between the high
have to ask.
desert.
I'm gonna have to ask our guest if he knows my wife because she also grew up in Acton.
Oh, maybe.
So
So he came there and they did this thing, and then I went up to the football players and was asking him questions, and he spoke to me. He was very outgoing, and I kind of knew him from the bus and stuff like that. And he was really nice, and he talked to me about it. He's like, "You'd be good." And the next thing I know, I came out for the summer into going from 8th to 9th grade, and I did football practice with them all throughout the summer. And they freaking football team, the guys wanted me to start or not start, but go to varsity that year. And they said, no, they got to get some playing time because I would have been second string and I'd have got more experience in JV. And I ended up playing football. He was one of the big reasons why I decided to go into football.
So what you're saying is we have your high school hero on the podcast.
I mean, he was a big deal for me in high school.
I can't wait to meet your hero.
Yeah. So without further ado, this is going to be Chris.
Welcome to the program, Chris, Chuck's hero.
What's up?
Yeah.
How are you,
But
Chris?
he was not the reason why I went into the Marine Corps.
Right. He was the reason you started playing football.
Yeah. He was one of the reasons why I went into the Marine Corps.
Chris, did you know that?
I didn't know either of those things.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. I had no idea I indirectly influenced either of those things. That's really nice to hear.
Isn't it
Yeah.
always like bizarre and nice? Like it's a weird moment when you're like, oh wait, I made a difference in somebody's fucking life?
Yeah,
and I'm friends with them?
Yeah. No,
Right.
it kind of, it's surprised. I mean, I guess it doesn't surprise me. I know that I wasn't a jerk to Chuck or anything like that, but I didn't know that small interaction had such a huge impact and influenced into that magnitude.
Sure. You know,
Yeah,
it's the
cool.
butterfly effect, man. We never know. We never know the effect we have on others, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you, police work, there were times where, and this doesn't happen very often. So take the boys and girls out on the street doing police work. Take the win when you can get it. I helped a family it was parents, their kid was out of control. We get these stupid calls all the time. You go out and you try and fix a problem it's a parenting problem, but it's one that the parents have created because they didn't smack their kid around when it was necessary, right? And now the kid's out of control. Right. And I went there and I, dealt with the issue by ripping the kid a new. I mean, in all honesty, I said, look, this is not a police problem. I can't legally do anything. But if you're asking me to give you a little bit of help to maybe break the cycle, you're going to have to just bear with me real quick and let me go in there and talk to him the way I'm going to talk to him. They're like, okay, we'll do anything. And I went in there and I ripped this kid a new asshole. And he was like 9 years old. And shit you not, though. A little while later, I was working a parade. I was working crowd control. Car pulls up. Everybody smiles and waves. And I'm like, what the? And I walk up. And it's this couple with their kid in the back seat. And they're like, we saw you working crowd control. And we had to pull over and talk to you. Thank you so much. I was like, what? They're like, he's been a totally different kid since then. And the kid's like, hey, how are you? I'm doing so much better. I'm like, what the fuck? So I didn't expect that to happen at all. Like you, I didn't know I had an impact like that, but sometimes it comes full circle and it's take the win when you can get it.
Exactly.
We don't get it. Crazy. And so now you are currently employed as and we won't say the agency, but a DA investigator.
Yeah.
And were you a street cop before that?
Yeah, that's kind of a prerequisite to become a district attorney investigator.
Well, I know where you're at, and I know it is there, but I also know that there have been other places where DA investigators, they prefer law enforcement experience, but it isn't a prereq.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's kind of news to me, but if they look for investigative experience, so you could be an insurance investigator and they'll still take you. So it's, anyway, so you are a DA investigator.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And you have prior law enforcement experience. And how long? So let's just start with just a brief synopsis of how you went from civilian to police officer to DA investigator.
Okay. So civilian police officer, DA investigator. The briefest synopsis is I went into the military, and I went from the military and became a
What branch?
police officer because I always wanted to be in the military and be a police officer. I was in the Marine Corps.
Got it.
And I was in tracks, same MOS as Chuck.
You really are a
That was
hero.
another-
I went from that.
Well, hold on.
I
That
guess
was
so.
I was gonna say it, but that was another thing that we didn't plan, and we had
Coincidence.
no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea he was an amphibious assault vehicle.
Wait a minute. Time the fuck out. You're
crew
telling me
member.
that when you went to tracks, you guys knew each other in tracks after knowing each
Before.
other in high school, and it was totally coincidental.
Yeah,
And I wasn't always
100%.
supposed to be in tracks. That wasn't supposed to happen either. I was supposed to be an I-strand electrician. But when I went to Florida to learn that, learning 30-step math problems with Ohm's law wasn't my thing. So I didn't pass that. I failed it.
Oh, so they're like, hey, we're gonna retread your ass and send you somewhere else.
Yeah. And I thought amphibious assault was like going on boats and all that stuff. And then I go and it's like this tank that goes into the ocean. I'm like, yeah, cool. Make the most of it.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be tanks, and I didn't find out until SOI, MCT SOI, that I was going to tracks, and I was like, "What the fuck is tracks?" And they're like, "Hey, it's like a tank that goes in the water." I was like, "That sounds fucking cool."
Yeah. It differentiated the Marine Corps from the Army for a long time, basically.
Yeah.
So then you worked as a police officer. Well, let's not say what agency you work for because that could give away where you ended up as a DA investigator. But how long were you on the street?
Well, I could say where I worked at SDPD for 2 years, and I was at Oceanside PD for 7 years.
Well, Oceanside, that's some shit. SDPD is a good. I actually, funny. So we have two people that I have to ask you about. I mentored a girl through the hiring process at SDPD, about probably 8 years ago or so now. So you may or may not know her. I don't know. And then Oceanside, there's some shit going on in Oceanside.
Yeah, it's like a mini San Diego kind of.
Right?
That's what I consider. It's like a condensed version of San Diego.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they're both good agencies, honestly.
Yeah. I've not heard any negative things. I've heard nothing but positive things about San Diego PD, both from people that have had experiences with them and from people that have worked there.
Really?
And from
I've heard
my
negative.
I have not, but for my money, I always tell people if you're going to move to California, there's only one city to move to. You can move to rural areas all to hell, right? You want to move to a nice rural, pastoral, coastal, like Morro Bay or San Luis Obispo, one of those little tiny spots, fine. If you want to move to one of the 3 or 4 major cities, because really it's San Francisco, Sacramento, Los Angeles, and San Diego. And if you're going to have to move to one of them, San Diego's the place to go. Absolutely. So there's a little pro tip for you guys out there. So then you transitioned from Oceanside PD. So you had about 10 years, just about 10 years on, and you decided to go become a DA investigator. Had you already worked investigations and that you decided you wanted to stay in investigations?
That's exactly it. I spent a little over 5 years working investigations. I was working property crimes. And I decided, if I can stay in this career path and potentially, for the rest of my career and, potentially promote in that way, then why not do it? It would be better for my family, not having to do the shift work and stuff like that.
Graveyard.
And my family comes first.
Right. Was Oceanside one of those units where you go in, do like a 4-year, 5-year tour, and then they kick you back out and they go, hey, we got to be fair to other guys. And we put everybody on a rotation so they get that experience. And then, they don't have to wait for attrition for someone else to get that experience. Is that kind of how it runs at Oceanside?
It used to, but then they got rid of it actually. So they just made it to where people naturally moved out of investigations through promotion or just retirement. So I could have stayed in investigations, but I knew that if I wanted to promote there, it would have benefited me to go to patrol and work in patrol and all that stuff. And
right,
you didn't want to.
Sergeant, you got to go out to the street.
Yeah,
I didn't want to try. I didn't want to try to just go to be a sergeant directly from investigations like that. So I would have gone back to patrol for at least a year and then tried to promote, and that wouldn't have gone well with my family. So I'm like, that's not a realistic approach.
Is
Yeah,
that the
I
Marine Corps
love-
coming out in you?
What's that?
Is that the Marine Corps coming out in you, the tradition?
The tradition? Like as far as going back to patrol and all that?
Well, you just say you didn't want to cut corners. You didn't want to like go from investigations and go straight to sergeant and go back in the field. I know for me, for myself, I didn't want to promote fast because I wanted to have the respect of my peers the same way if I ever became an officer in the Marine Corps. I'd rather be a Mustang and have the respect of my peers and then go be an officer rather than just going straight into being an officer. You know what I mean? That's why.
So I've mixed feelings about that. And the reason why is because I became a detective pretty quickly, and it upset people, rightfully so, that had been around for a long time. And it wasn't my fault that the criteria were what they were. You know, they said, okay, the minimum time is 3 years to put in for detective. So I did at 3 years, 2 years SDPD, 1 at Oceanside. And I just prepared in the best way I could. I didn't do anything else except prepare and do as good as I could. And I ended up being the last person picked for the spot, right? Well, people made it very apparent that they didn't care for that. So I think people are going to be haters no matter what. And I don't know if that really impacted it. I just felt like I needed to go back to patrol for about a year to understand it better, because I didn't want to lead people and not understand what I was leading them with.
Yeah, that would have been my assessment too. Is so I did same kind of thing happened to me. I went to investigations, like I had the bare minimum amount of time that you could have on, and went into narcotics, and it all came about like they let me test for 2-striper 3 months early. I had 3 months less than the prerequisite for the senior officer position, and they let me test anyway because the list is good for a year. I came out number 1 in the test, and they're like, "Oh shit!" And they called me and they're like, "Look, we have to. We're promoting number 2 because you don't have the timing grade." But and I said, "Okay," and they said, "But you put in for the narco spot as well, and you came out number 1 on that, so we're gonna give that to you." And so now I'm just like 3 months shy of 3 years, and I'm in narco. And I was like, "What the fuck?" I did not expect that to happen. I didn't expect to get promoted. I didn't expect to go to narco. I expected other people to get it, but like you said, when you prepare and you're smart, and you're not a jackass. I mean, I'm a jackass, but they didn't know that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it happens. So now, DA investigator, do you enjoy? So for the people that don't know, DA investigators work for the district attorney's office, and the district attorneys use them to bolster the investigative needs of a case before it goes to trial. Is that about fair? Reader's Digest assessment. You follow
Kind of.
interviews that need to be followed up on. You shore up things that they need to get answers on. You basically are the second detective to come in after the case gets to the DA's office. The agency investigates it. They get it to the point where it goes to the DA. Now the DA has their people that goes out and does the things that the DA specifically wants done. Is that about a fair assessment?
In most cases, but there are some units where I work where you're handling cases start to finish, like the unit I'm in, which I really enjoy because it's like I'm still a detective.
Uh-huh.
Right.
So I kind of feel like
you're
I
in a unit
thrive
where
in that.
you get it gets referred to you and you start it from the jump.
Where it gets what? I lost you for a second.
Oh, you're in a unit where a case gets referred to you and you start the case from day one. Nobody hands it off to you.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, cool. That is much
And,
better. I would like that better.
Yeah, so there are units like that where I work. So yeah, there, and then most of it is exactly what you said, though.
Is that because you're young and you have that experience, and they know that you'll go out there and get the job done, and you're still hungry for work?
Because he's smart.
As far as being smart, I don't.
Dude, I know this dude from high school, so it's.
I think it's more about effort, honestly. That's what I really think. I think that anybody can be smart, but it's really the effort that you put into something.
No, not it. I'm going to correct you. Not anybody can be smart.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Anybody
You're
can
right.
be educated. Anybody can be educated.
There you go.
Not
There you
anybody can be. Everybody can be smart. So now the floor is yours. Let's talk about some of your stories, because I don't know if we're gonna get cop stories or DA stories. I mean, I'm all ears, or maybe military stories. I don't know.
Yeah, Marine Corps.
I lost the last part.
No, I was just saying I'm looking forward to hearing your story or stories, because I don't. We could get military stories. We could get cop stories from Oceanside or San Diego. We could get DA investigator stories. Let's do it.
Chuck, you tell me what you want, and I'll do whatever you want.
Well, I mean, I think you prepared fucking with me reading your whole bio.
Yeah, they're your notes.
Yeah, I think
Just go with
starting
that.
from the Marine Corps, I think would be pretty good. Yeah.
And if we go over a little bit, we go over a little bit. If we have you back, we have you back. That's all good.
Okay. Do you want me to go to what led me into the Marine Corps, or
No, let's
From the-
start with some actual, like, some stories from your experiences either in the Marine Corps, the police department, or the DA's office. Some of the fondest, or maybe something from the DA's office that was crazy and awesome, and maybe street cops or other detectives don't get to experience that kind of stuff.
I don't really have anything with that. I mean, I haven't been there very long.
Oh, okay.
So I can't say much about that. But in the Marine Corps, I mean, let's see. When I joined, I've got a funny story. I mean,
Sure.
if you want to start off with that.
You
Kinda
start
pretty
wherever you
nice.
want. It's your story. You tell it any way you want.
Yeah. So the funny part is, in the very beginning, I was during, and this is a very strange part to start it at, but
You can start it wherever you
you're
want.
okay, you're supposed to graduate in boot camp, right? You have visitors Thursday. Your family visits you, or whoever.
Yeah, Family Day.
Well, I was in the buddy program with someone named Tony Yokoi. Did you know Tony, Chuck?
I don't know the last name. I'd have to see a face.
So his family was from Japan, and they brought sushi, homemade sushi, and they got stuck, like they got lost, and they ended up in the border. So they were late to Visitors Thursday, and
They got lost at the border.
yeah, so they end up like super late to Visitors Thursday, and we end up not thinking about it, eating the sushi, and I end up with terrible food poisoning. And I almost didn't graduate boot camp on time because I get this horrendous food poisoning literally a few hours before we're doing like the graduation rehearsal for boot camp.
Yeah, and then with the next day or the next 2 days, your graduation. Like your family comes out, they do Family Day. You go and you spend the day with them with Family Day. Go to the PX, MCX, whatever you want to do, and then you have all your rehearsals. And the next thing you know, you're on the parade deck graduating, and you're having food poisoning at this point.
Yep. So I had like, God, I don't even know. It was like about 10, 12 hours to get rid of my food poisoning and be ready for graduation. Or else I would have had to get recycled. So that was like my intro to the Marine Corps. Yeah. That's what they told me. Well, here's your options. You can get recycled and stay like extra whatever time it is until the next cycle goes through and graduates, or you can push it and graduate. And I'm like, I'm not staying here.
You're like, no, dude, I don't care if I'm pissing out my asshole. I'm getting on that parade deck. I'm marching.
Exactly.
And I'm getting through it.
Exactly.
Well, at least you didn't have to deal with humidity, because that shit, the sand fleas and the humidity would have fucking just made it so much worse. You were down in nice sunny San Diego with the, offshore breeze coming in from the coastline.
I don't even know how you ended up in the East Coast. That confused
My
me.
dad moved to Maine.
Oh, okay. Now it makes sense.
Yeah, so I enlisted out there in good old Maine. And yeah, it was fucking horrible. That place sucks. I never want to live in Maine.
He died. He got hit by a truck and he died. His dad buried him in a pet cemetery. He came back to life, joined the Marines.
Funny thing was, we had a fucking cemetery and a pet cemetery on my dad's property. The whole family, and honestly, he could have labeled that place as a cemetery and not paid any taxes on it.
Why didn't he do it?
I don't know. That's he has a lot of downfalls and stuff. He just didn't know. It was before fucking like Google and shit. So you graduate. Obviously, you graduate Marine Corps boot camp. Then you get into the Fleet Marine Corps. You go and you fail out of being an electrician or whatever that was, and then you make it to the most important MOS, which is 1833 amphibious assault vehicles as a crewman, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Fucking-
actually, there was a
go for it.
large group of us that failed. That went from the air wing to tracks. It wasn't just me. So there was a bunch of us that ended up in the same company,
yeah.
Bravo Company.
Oh yeah, we had a bunch of those dudes who got out of the wing and who couldn't make it in the wing, and they got kicked out to us in Camp Lejeune. So you get into tracks, and you're there for how many? And by 2007, had you already deployed?
No, I was doing
So
my
that's-
workup, and then
That's where I met. That's where I reconvened with you. Not met you, but reconvened with you when I was in schoolhouse, and you were trying to get me over into your unit, which I wish that would have worked. So you're there. You're a hard charger. You're freaking yoked out of your mind. This is what I was experiencing when I was there. I was seeing you, and you're doing your workups, and then you get ready to pump out. And where did you pump out to?
we went to Iraq
And
Anbar province.
and that was what, 2008?
2007, we went to Iraq.
Okay, 2007. So, damn, that was right after the schoolhouse. Man, damn. Oh, you pumped out quick. What was that like?
Well, honestly, it was, first of all, the training was pretty crazy. It was intense. It was the best training I ever got in the Marine Corps. So leading up to that, we were so well prepared because they said, hey, we are going to send you in tracks as your regular MOS to go to Iraq. We're going to send you as provisional infantry.
No shit.
And they're like, hey, yeah. And they're like, so, hey, Chris, or they're like, hey, you're going to be a saw gunner because you're big. And you're also going to carry the radio on top of it. So get over your meathead, take all this shit and carry it. I'm like, okay, roger that. And that's what I did, right? But we do training all the time. We had we had this thing called Stu Seagal where they hired like actors and actresses and they simulated like Iraqi villages, used simunition rounds. It was just very realistic training leading up to it. And then we left. We flew in, and it was just really interesting kind of leaving to Iraq, because it was just like, I can't even explain the feeling. It's not like going 10-8 the first time. It's like totally different. Because like you have a little bit of like a kind of like a nervousness when you go 10-8 the first time, but this is like on another level and you're almost numb at the same time. It's just like, well, if something happens, it happens, and you can't do anything about it. So basically, we made a few stops. I think it was like Germany, Kuwait, and then we get to Iraq. I think we take a helicopter into Iraq, and it was like night when we landed. And then we get in a 7-ton, and then we're like officially outside the wire. And they tell us, all right, yeah, so now we're going to go outside the wire. And that means like, this is where like all the IEDs are and stuff like that. And you're pretty much in like in the war zone, because anything can happen in this area.
Mm-hmm.
And so that moment is like when you're like, okay, now it's real. And everyone kind of was just really quiet when that was happening and really alert, I'd say. And it was like a kind of a huge adrenaline rush. Yeah, so we separated our platoon. We had I think 3 sections, I believe. But yeah, so a few of us that were air wing failures, as I call it, ended up in the same platoon. And one of them, their name was Tanner. And we all made this like pact to kind of stick together and be, I would call it like, we call like brothers, like friends, stick together, like look out for each other, right?
Right.
And part of it, is like informal leadership. You would get in each other's ass about certain things, right? Like if it was uniforms or whatnot, or various things. So like everyone was correcting each other, and it was just how it was. And if you had issues with each other, you would settle it, and that's just how it was. But we had like this very good bond, all of us, especially the ones that came back from the air wing and failed like that. And him and I actually switched our spots because he was another saw gunner. So his fire team and my fire team, we switched, at least as far as I remember. And that'll come up later. But so we end up doing like we separate our platoon into these areas. Like one of them's at this place, checkpoint 3, where we're at. I think some of the other Marines are at a train station. We all ended up at the train station. We ended up at several different places, but checkpoint 3 is the first place. And that place is interesting because we get there and we had these HESCO barriers. Do you know what that is?
Yep.
Yeah, so they're the big barriers you fill with sand.
For the people that aren't listening, it's if you've seen movies, TV shows, you see these like a wire crate bag.
Yeah, it's a white wire crate with fucking sand and rock. And
It's a white wire crate with a bag in it, it's a wire crate with a bag in it, and they fill the bag usually with sand, and it creates essentially a Minecraft brick that you can build a structure with. It's the easiest way I can explain it. But
Yeah,
they're what,
exactly it.
5 feet tall?
Yeah, they're a little taller. They're pretty. We have some pretty big ones around us, but
4
at
4 feet, I think.
3,
4 or 5
I think
feet.
they were.
I think they
bigger.
come in different sizes.
Yeah, and this was at checkpoint 3. That was our protection, right? And then we had that, and then there was like a HESCO barrier like structure that was the main berthing, but there wasn't enough room for everyone in there, so a few of us had to sleep outside in tents. And I was one of the lucky people that was chosen to do that. So we were filling sandbags on top of like, our sleeping arrangements, right?
Mhm.
So like we'd go out on patrol and do our fire watch and all that stuff. And then we'd fill sandbags and fortify our little spot because there just wasn't room in the HESCO area. But it's crazy because at any time some terrorist could just drive by and pretty much shoot at us, and we would have been totally screwed. And
I'm trying
thankfully,
to find a picture of a good HESCO barrier in some of the photos that that you sent.
yeah, in the background there, maybe.
There, you see some right
Yeah,
there
right
in
there.
the background.
Yeah,
Oh, shit,
Yep.
those are fucking big. Those are
Those
big
are
boys.
big.
yeah, they're
Like
big
6
ones.
feet.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was checkpoint 3 in a nutshell. I mean, there was we just constantly do like patrols left and right. We did people started running over IEDs pretty quick though. At first, people didn't have any injuries, but then I think maybe one of the first injuries in Bravo Company was my friend John. He suffered shrapnel to his face. He had a pair of Oakleys on. He suffered shrapnel to his face. His Oakley saved his eye. So
Was that your gunny?
and he had no, it's my buddy Reinhardt. He's actually a cop on base now.
Nice.
But yeah, but he's still got a piece of metal in his face. I still talk to him to this day, and the Oakleys he was wearing saved his eye. So that's pretty crazy. But
So Oakley,
yeah,
Oakley, good job, and you should send this dude a new pair of glasses.
they did. They hooked him up.
Nice.
He sent him a letter, and they hooked him up.
They probably like, can we share your story? We'll send you free glasses if we can share how your eye was saved, because
Yeah.
that's a pretty good story.
Yeah, so like we were having like situations like that. So we knew it was real. We knew like how dangerous it was. But it was still kind of, we knew it was the threat was apparent, but it was like you just have to keep moving on, right? Because you have your mission, and it's just that's your job. And then at the end of it, you're going to come home, you're going to see your family, you're going to go go about life. And that's the just how it goes when you're in the military. So we go through checkpoint 3. We end up at at a train station, and I don't even remember where this train station is, but that's where pretty much all of us were together. That place was pretty interesting. We were staying with like the Iraqi police and stuff like that. Pretty interesting dynamic there. And they were getting trained a lot by people, mainly in another platoon, but it was really strange. Like they would call us like names and stuff, right? So like I would hold the sauce. They'd call me like Van Damme or Rambo all the time. Crack me up because I'm like, what? They're like, you Van Damme.
Van Dambo.
Like,
Van Dambo. I like it.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm definitely not Van Damme. Absolutely not. But if they saw my dance moves, they'd definitely not call me Van Damme, you know. But
They'd call you Van Damme.
yeah. Yeah, something.
Right.
But yeah, so we stayed at a train station there for a while, did some operations there. We ended up pretty much in several places. We ended up in a place by the Euphrates River also. And in this place we'd do like a foot patrol to the Euphrates, and we do rotating posts there. And like basically it was a vehicle checkpoint, so we'd just watch vehicles come along, and it was like a pontoon bridge, and like we'd check the vehicles and stuff like that. Let's see, during, I think it was around when we made the rotation to the pontoon boat area. It might have been then. One of my friends, Chris, he was in another platoon. He got hit by a remote controlled IED. So he get hit. Someone detonated it, and it hit him. And Chris he's amazing. He lost his leg ultimately from it, and part of his arm. Chris is one of the most inspirational, badass people that I've ever known or ever met in my life. And he went on to become a police officer after losing his leg and all of that stuff. And he's pretty damn successful at it.
Oh, wow.
So all the way from, doing that, like thinking he was dead, to where he's at now is just amazing. So that was like our, that when that happened, that was almost even more of a wake-up call, because people were getting, Reinhardt, he had the metal in his face. People were running over IEDs and they were getting hit, probably getting concussed and then not saying much. But nobody had gotten injured like that.
Right. And were you feeling kind of like that you were like experienced and you were like, no, nothing really bad or crazy has happened at this point, and kind of feeling a little bit more emboldened or safe in an enemy atmosphere?
Complacent?
Kind of.
No, I wasn't. I definitely wasn't feeling complacent. I was, I don't know. I was pretty good about not being like that. I would drink, do you know what Rippets are?
Yep.
I would drink unhealthy amounts of Rippets when I was on Firewatch, and it's led to my caffeine addiction today,
I mean, you've been in the military, you're a cop, you've earned your caffeine addiction.
Those Rippets are horrible.
Yeah, so I drink so many of those. Like I chase my, liter of water with a couple Rippets, and I would stay awake and alert at all times, right? So I wouldn't get complacent. And I'd say that my platoon was pretty damn good overall about not being complacent. And overall, the company was. It's just the sand over there is like moon dust. So like you would step and it's like you're up to your damn knee in sand. It's like nearly impossible to see where these IEDs are.
Right.
So we would, by about August 29th, we had lost. We had some. We had lost Chris because he had lost his leg, right?
Yeah.
But he was still alive. He had just he had a severe injury. He was in recovery, and I believe one of our staff sergeants he was either near Chris when that happened, or he got hit by an IED as well, and he was medevaced, and he was no longer on the deployment with us. However, they're still alive. So we were aware, but we were like a month and a half out from going home. So we're like, okay, lights at the end of the tunnel. Just keep our heads up, keep it on a swivel. We'll be good to go. Well, August 29th happens, and that's when our platoon got really tested. And our platoon had like, I think, about 40 people, maybe 3 sections, about 40 people. And I wasn't on this patrol or anything like that. I just, I remember I was outside. I heard a loud explosion, and a short time later, they called us in and told us what had happened. And what had happened was Tanner had stepped on a pressure plate IED. And when he did, it basically took his life. And then it threw our gunnery sergeant, Valetti, forward like several feet. And at the word that we were getting back at the forward operating base is that that he was gone too. That's what people were saying at first. And then like we get the true story that it was Tanner, and then he's alive, but he's messed up. And they're sending him, sending him to get treated. And I remember that was kind of like the air got sucked out of the entire room, like the area we were in. Everyone just was instantly like,
right,
because you're so close to going home.
So close to going home. On top of it, he was going to come home to a newborn. So, and he had gotten married just before we left. So that was like even worse.
And you guys had switched.
And we switched. And on top of it, him and I would give each other a lot of shit and correct each other a lot. And this is the craziest thing that, like, I don't know why this happened, but it did. And I'm so thankful for it. Like, the night before that, he talked to me and he thanked me for always having his back and always and sticking by that pact we made to always stick by each other and have each other's back.
Right.
And that had a profound impact on me, because if he didn't do that, I would have felt tremendously horrible, even more so than I did when that happened. But when that happened, it was pretty damn awful. And I remember we were a tight-knit group, the tight-knit family, I'd say. The first sergeant, the captain, everyone, they came in, they had to tell everyone the news, and you could tell. I mean, some of the people that were lower ranking like me, like a lance corporal, they'll try to say some negative shit about the captain and whatnot, but I truly believe that he was crushed when this happened, because there's no way in hell that I don't know why any of them said anything other than anything negative about that. I think that it's just that they were kind of talking out of a place of hurt because that's just their coping. But yeah, so we were kind of, after that, we were kind of coming to terms with it, right?
Like, oh shit,
And I-
we're still in this, even though we've
Right.
got a short amount of time to come home. It's still
not
still
only
wild.
that, yeah. So it's like, oh shit, we're still in this, and then also, you don't have much time to process it. Like you have time to receive the message, compartmentalize it, and then you have a mission to go on, right?
Yeah. It's
And
like when we
then-
lost an officer, the fucking next day we were right there in the division where he just perished, covering the division, allowing that division to kind of go home and kind of decompress for a day. And we're there without, and we knew the guy and other people knew the guy. I didn't know him, but it still was, you didn't have a lot of time to process. You were there when the call came out. The officer just perished, just died. And then within 12 hours later, you're on a fucking mission going back out and handling your shit and handling business in that area.
Yeah, it's important to be able to process these things, and in combat, you don't have time for that.
No.
And and I think a lot of people had animosity about that too. When we got back, because I'd hear what they would say. Like that we'd have to, we had to go right back out and all that stuff. But I think about it looking back now. We had to go back out, but then there were people that had to put together the damn mission plan. So all those people had even less time to like register what the hell just happened. And those people have guilt too. So, I mean, all
sure.
around it is the worst situation possible that nobody ever wants to be part of.
Right. So what happened next?
Yeah. So I remember, because of like things I experienced growing up, I was always able to I've always been able to adjust to things, and try to move forward.
Yeah, overcome.
Right.
And not like, not like gloss over shit and stuff like that, but I mean like adjust. And I was trying to kind of talk to people and see where they were at and stuff like that. And I remember Yarborough, I talked to him, and he was defeated. He was just taking it rough. Like he felt like shit. And there was just nothing you could do to like, he just didn't want to talk to anybody. He didn't want to do anything like, and there were a couple of people like that, but especially him, he took it especially hard. And then September 6th comes around, and we're once again, this time it's different. There's a crazy sandstorm. All right. And like you can't see like barely the hand in front of your face when you go outside. It's nuts.
Right.
And we feel an explosion in the fob, like a vibration. Like, what the hell are we getting? Like, are we getting shelled right now, or what's going on? Are we getting attacked? So people start putting their gear on, and then we hear an explosion as well, a very loud one.
Oh shit! Are you getting mortared?
That's what we thought, right? Well, I'm like walking outside, like I think I don't even remember exactly what we were doing, but I remember I was walking towards the front, and I don't know why, but I saw my fire team leader at the time, and I think he was a section leader. And they told, and I just happened to be in at that place in time, and I learned that we lost 4 more Marines at that moment to a suicide vehicle-borne IED, and that a terrorist had shot an RPG at the other side of the there was like a attached building. There was a building like not too far from our fob, and that's what got an RPG shot at it. And I was like, holy shit. They're like, you know, I remember they're like, yeah, don't you cry, don't say anything to anybody and all that stuff. And I'm like, fuck, like I don't even know what I just heard. I don't know what to think of it. I at first I had thought somebody told me my friend Mobius was one of the men who lost her life. It turns out it was Staff Sergeant Stock, Sergeant Yarbrough, the one who was devastated by Tanner passing away, Corporal Skripsic, and then Corporal Poole. And and that's, you don't think that it can get any worse after losing somebody like that, you know, on August 29th, and then that happened.
Right.
Yeah, just like a week
And
before, and then oh fuck.
That's a lot. I mean, that's a fuck ton to deal with in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
And it's not.
And,
I mean, it's not easy anytime, but in that short period of a time, you almost have no time to recover before you're dealing with the next fucking thing.
yes. So we got this news, and the thing is I couldn't tell anyone anything.
Ugh.
And we had a board in the berthing, and like it had everyone's name, and next to Tanner's name it had something about like, you know, his location, like about heaven or pearly gates or something, right? And I was like, fuck. And I went to my bed and I just sat there, and then we went and then got briefed again by our platoon commander, and I know he was freaking crushed when he told everybody this. And then we had to go from there, and we had to man the checkpoint in a Humvee and rotate basically turret watch. So it was like, I don't even remember. It was, I think, 6 on 6 off in the turret in the sandstorm.
Right.
Is
that because there was a massive fucking gaping hole, and you guys had to man it so that you didn't get attacked anymore?
Yep. And then I think they didn't know what the hell was going on. Like, they didn't have the intel gathered. They had to repair the hole. They had to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
And you know, so time was very much a luxury in that situation. So they did what they had to do. But yeah, so we went from that, and something pretty inspiring happened a short time after that, though, and it was our Gunny Valetti. He was getting treated in Germany, and he heard what happened, and he refused to come home because he heard, you know, he knew how devastated we were. And when we went to Al-Assad, he made it a point to get to Al-Assad to come visit us.
Right.
And he's like still bandaged up and shit. He's not.
Is that when you guys
100%.
were making your journey home?
I don't think so. I think that we still had a little bit more time left, but he still like, he's like, I've got to go see my people, because, and maybe it wasn't Al-Assad, maybe he came out to us, but I don't remember. But he came out to us, and it gave us like this, damn, it galvanized us the rest of that deployment. Just
right.
It gave us that energy to make
the
it
wind
through
back
it.
in your sails.
Yeah, because like, no matter what the hell you say or how you act or anything like that, after something that horrible happens, you're just kind of, you're going to do what you do, and then what happens. And that's it. You just do what you're trained to do. You probably aren't going to have any enthusiasm because it's been sucked out of you, you know?
Everything's been sucked out of you.
Yeah, you
that's
have
a lot of fucking people to lose.
Yeah.
So he comes back and he puts some wind back in your sails. You guys get through that deployment, and you guys venture home. What's that aftermath look like? You know, I'm assuming there's probably some survivor's guilt from having to switch with Tanner, or not having to switch, but switching with Tanner, different fire teams, and if that had have been, you guys had not had switched, who knows? Maybe you would have been out there, and I'm sure those thoughts are running through your head. So, what does that look like when you're getting back home after having a lot of your brothers fall over in Iraq, and you coming back? What does that look like?
So, yeah, I did have survivor's guilt. I'd say a lot of our men did.
I mean, how can you not?
Because, like, yeah, I mean, because we had, God, people on that patrol where we lost Tanner. We had people that had to go identify our men we lost, people that had to move them after we lost them, people that take their freaking gear off. Like, there are so many layers to it, and so much stuff that these Marines had to see, and so many layers of different exposure that happened. So there were many people
can I
that
add
say
to that?
Mhm.
Can I add something for the listener that maybe doesn't understand? If you've ever known somebody, a friend, who has died surprisingly, shockingly, not somebody that, was sick and you prepared for it. I mean, if you've ever had a close friend taken away from you in a car accident out of nowhere, and you've gotten that call, that in and of itself is traumatic. Now, imagine you were following that person in your car and you saw the accident, then killed them, had to walk up on their body, take their clothes off of them, identify. Like, that's what we're talking about. That's the level of involvement in the human misery death of a friend that we're talking about. It's not getting a call that your buddy died, right? It's totally different. So I just hope people understand that when we talk about this, we're talking about it as if, oh yeah, but no, it's there's, like you said, there are layers to it that you can't unpack unless you've lived that. You can sympathize, but there's no way you can understand it.
True. Yeah. I mean, one of the men in my platoon, this happened, I believe, on his birthday. And that caused a lot of problems for him later in life. And it still causes him problems. But yeah, so getting back, it did cause that. And, another blessing I received on top of Tanner talking to me the day before, he passed, was we met many of the parents of the men who died in Iraq. We had a celebration at the beach cottages in 21 area.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know where that is.
yeah, and Tanner's dad came up to me, and and someone's like, "Hey, someone wants to meet you. It's Tanner's dad." I'm like, "Fuck, he's gonna punch me in the face."
Oh,
That's what I thought. I was preparing for it, and I'm like, "I'm gonna take it, whatever." And he shook my hand. He gave me a hug and thanked me, because Tanner would just say good things about me.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Wow, like that's
you almost would have
that
preferred the punch in the face.
I know I preferred that, because
Oh, okay. I would just say the hug is sometimes hard, right? The you know what I mean? Like, you expect the anger, and then sometimes the hug is hard.
he wasn't angry at all. He was very grateful that my relationship with his son.
That's awesome. That's that. I
And
mean, that's a good dad.
yeah, it was like an unexpected thing. Like when Chuck told me I influenced him to play football, right? I didn't know it. It was unexpected, and it was like an amazing thing that I needed, that helped me a lot. And people from that deployment, some of them, one of them got injured during the workups. He took his own life. He probably had survivor's guilt. He was really close with one of those, or a couple of the Marines we lost.
Yeah.
There have been several people from that company that took their own life, because that's a real thing that happens.
Yeah.
People have gotten into their own, into addictions. Some of them have gotten arrested. Some of them, but some of them have done great things, right? Some of them they've gone from that deployment. Some of them work for the VA to help other veterans. Some have become like psychologists, law enforcement. You name it. There's people in all facets of life. So there are many. There are people that were crushed by this and lost their battle and lost their life because it just was too much. But there are other people that used it to like propel them to great things.
Right. Some found their purpose in what had happened, and they used that and galvanized it to push them forward in life. And I know we only scratched the surface of your story. Me knowing you, me looking at all of your notes, which are very extensive, knowing your upbringing, knowing what guided you to the position that you're in currently today. It's a tremendous story. And what I want to ask before we get ready to close out and before we get ready to invite you back for some more stories to finish out your
we haven't even scratched the surface, man. No. I'm in and we're out of time, and we still have to get to your dedication. So
and I want you to come back, and I want you to talk about your second deployment, your schoolhouse with Rice and there's another gentleman that we knew.
I want you to tell Chuck stories.
I want you to come back and then talk about some of those law enforcement stories. But what I really want to know, and what I think that will help other people, is after dealing with all of that baggage and all of that, I'm not going to just say guilt, but there's some guilt in there, and there's a lot of baggage. There's a lot of stuff that you dealt with. And how did you overcome that? I mean, we talked about other people getting purposes and things like that. What allowed you to overcome that and propel you forward, and that maybe other people in that position that are maybe currently still struggling with it, maybe they haven't found their purpose, but what it might help them? What allowed you to move forward? What allowed you to get closure on everything that had happened in that first deployment?
So, I honestly, you saw like the kind of notes about my upbringing, and that prepared me for a lot of this stuff because of how crazy it was.
Right.
But on top of that, and it made me resilient. It really did, to be honest. But I've always believed that you can use horrible experiences or traumatic events. You could either use them to cripple you and as a reason to fail, and as a reason to not do things or not do well at things, or you can use them as a reason to have tremendous success and do great. And I look at people like my friend Chris, who became a police officer who's totally kicking ass. I look at another friend who became a doctor. I have a friend who had cancer, who overcame cancer. He finished his treatment. A week later, he's like, "Hey, we're doing the turkey trot." And I'm like, "I'm doing the turkey trot." "You're damn right I'm doing the turkey trot." I look at things like that. People that motivate me like that. Like, yes, sometimes I get in a dark place. Sometimes everyone gets in a dark place. People go through things. People go through shit. That's life. Everybody goes through hard times. But you just have to frame it how you're going to frame it, and you have to try to make it to where it works for you, and you have to try to adjust. You have to try to kind of course correct to where it fits into whatever you need to do, and maybe create some sort of like a goal or an objective or something, and be like, okay, this is where I'm at right now. Make like a small goal and like creep your way out of whatever hole you're in until eventually you're all the way out. And that's kind of what I've done. Like, I've struggled with things too. Like, I don't smoke, I hardly drink, but I've got a hell of an eating addiction. I fluctuate weight like crazy. I've gone up to 289 pounds. It's just, but I know, like, okay, I recognize it, and then I talk to my doctor. I try to figure it out, and I recognize it, and I try to course correct.
So, and you don't you don't let their sacrifices be in vain. You use that to propel you forward and to shift your fire and to focus onto other things to propel you and to create a good life for yourself and everybody around you, and to help others around you. 'Cause like you said, your friend who had cancer, you did the turkey trot to build them up and to basically use all of the hardships that you've learned in life to propel you forward, to honor those that have fallen before you.
Exactly, because I think that that's what you're supposed to do. They aren't
Right.
here. It's not their choice that they're not here. So what better way to honor them than to do all these things for them?
Right. That's powerful, dude. I mean, I know so many people who get enveloped by all the dark shit and they can't see the light forward. And it seems like you have a pretty good balance of honoring those who came before you and fell before you, and to propel you forward into doing the great things that you're doing. Because I got to say, a lot of the shit that I've watched you do and witnessed you do, um, after all of the hardships that you faced, you know, it's pretty inspiring, and to be able to lift others up, those who, your buddy who had cancer and stuff, and to be able to go out and do that turkey trot, which I've seen the photos from, and to kind of put a story behind that, it's kind of inspiring, because I've seen you do a lot of these different things, and I've seen you do a lot of things with the Special Olympics while you're in law enforcement, things like that. So it just seems like everything that you do, you put forward the most effort, because you want to honor those who are no longer here to live those lives or have those experiences, and it's pretty inspiring, and I think that a lot of people should take note to that, and try to focus their energy on not the bad shit but all the good shit that if the people that had perished were still here would be doing.
Well, and that's good advice. Like, all, you know, you have to find the ways to get through, right? You have to. We have talked about people. I've told many people, do something for somebody else. Get out of your own head. Get out of your own way. If you let yourself collapse in on yourself, if you let yourself focus in on the negative, you have to look for the positive. Our human beings' brains are not necessarily wired to look at the positive. We're wired for survival, and being wired for survival, that oftentimes means we look at the negative because the negative is what's going to get us, right? But that also means that sometimes we're going to spiral around it. And so, it's funny. We were talking about that, Chuck. Somebody just asked me the other day. I randomly word vomited this on him because I didn't even think about it. He said, "How you doing?" I said, "Better than I have any right to be. I could complain, but who the hell would care? I live where I live. I got a good family, and really, I say this to you in response to your generic question because it reminds me to be grateful." And I said it to him, and I didn't even realize I was saying it, but it is important to remind ourselves of the good, right? You have to deliberately remind yourselves of the good. And it sounds like that's some of what helped you through.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
it's a fact.
yeah, don't get sucked down. Don't get bogged down. Right? Keep moving forward. All that shit. I know it sounds so trite though, right? It sounds like damn it, it's not that easy. We know it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy.
It's not. No, but like the thing is that you develop a routine, right? And then when you do that routine, and there are days that you don't want to do whatever it is, whether it be work out or whatever it is, you confront that I'm not going to do it with, no, I will do it because I get to do it. And then when you
Right.
confront that, and then you kick that obstacle down, you feel an astounding sense of accomplishment. And then you just keep going and going and going. And then it's amazing when you continuously have these breakthroughs. Like for me, it was working out. I went a long time without working out because I had like a pulmonary embolism, right? And that I had to, yeah, I had 4 of them. And I had to go through
You're not even
this.
supposed to have one, dude. What are you doing?
Yeah, I know. But you know what? I'm alive. So whatever.
Yep, that's true. Be
And
grateful.
exactly. So to get back into working out, I had to just face obstacles. And there are days I don't want to work out, but I confront it because you know what? When you're in the military, you're blessed with something, and it's this determination you have it because you've gone through the basic training or boot camp or whatever. You know you've got it in you to just push it and be uncomfortable and get through it.
Improvise,
So
adapt, and
everyone's got it.
overcome.
Yes.
If processing grief, pain, and trauma were easy, it would be called sleeping with your mom. Sorry, I had to leave us on a high note because that's who I am. So, Chris, thanks for coming on. As we're running out of time, I want to make sure we listeners know we always give our guests a chance to dedicate their episode to whomever they would like. And I have a feeling I know where this is going, but Chuck has told me you have a dedication, so please.
Well, yeah, obviously this I would dedicate this to my friends that I lost in Iraq, Corporal Tanner, and then Staff Sergeant Stock, Sergeant Yarbrough, Corporal Scripsick, Corporal Poole, Corporal Tanner, and then also we didn't talk about him, but Sergeant Rice. We'll talk about him next time apparently, but
yeah, we can dedicate that one to Sergeant Rice.
Okay, well then we'll save that dedication. But but thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We appreciate you talking about it because this shit is not easy to talk about.
No.
It is easier to talk about with people that have seen it, done it, lived it, right? That's why we do this show. But it's even then when you're sitting down and some of this stuff might come up, it still gives you that uneasy feeling sometimes in your stomach until you start getting into it and it get a rhythm, and then it becomes like almost like just release.
Yeah.
So it gets, I guess that's a way of saying, boys and girls, it gets better.
True.
Always.
Anyway, Chuck, what do you got for us?
Well, I want to say, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. I really look forward to you coming back, as getting into some stories about Rice and stuff like that, because that was difficult for me. And I know that was difficult for you, being in the same schoolhouse with him and all that and everything that surrounded that whole issue. And I know I talked to you when it happened and I was pissed and I was so angry when that happened. So I look forward to you coming back on when that to talk about that and to talk about, your journey into law enforcement and stuff like that and how the Marine Corps shaped you. So we really look forward to that. And I just want to thank everybody for today for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow us on Instagram at war_stories_official and our Facebook at War Stories Podcast. If you're already following, really appreciate it if you'd share a post and help spread the word. Also, TikTok. We have a TikTok. I'll get into that in a second. You can also check us out and link in our bio on both platforms to find all of our social media or media links on our website. Our podcast is available on all major streaming platforms, including YouTube. If you'd like to support us, head over to our website at www.warstoriesofficial.com and grab some gear. We still have some merch left, some Wilby hoodies and some stuff like that. So get it while the iron's hot, because it ain't coming back. Do you have a story to tell? You know someone who does? We're always looking for law enforcement, veterans, corrections officers, dispatchers, firefighters, medics, ER docs, and ER nurses to feature on the show. If you're interested, email us at booking.warstories@gmail.com or go to LinkedIn at linkedin.com /War Stories Podcast and share your story. We'd love to have you on. And if you know someone who'd be a great fit, please send them our way and check the link. I'm sorry. They'd be a great fit. Please send them our way. Also, check us out on TikTok. We have a TikTok. It's tiktok.com/War Stories Locker Room. Producers there, Dylan. And if you message on LinkedIn or booking, I will send you over to LinkedIn or I'll send you to Dylan. Dylan will be the one who gets you booked. If you go straight to LinkedIn, you go to War Stories and you share your story there and you link up with Dylan, he'll get you booked. Thank you for the support. Stay safe.
And until our next episode, come home with your shield or on it.